Good morning y buenos dias. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. Our weekly worship here is where we connect, share information, and inspiration. My name is Jan Realini, and I've been a member of this church since 1987. I currently serve as co-chair of the Social Justice Committee. And this church is an essential part of my life journey, where I can focus on what is sacred, even though my beliefs might be different than others. Let's acknowledge this geographic place where we're currently located, Yanawana, the home and traditional lands of the Qualwatican people, the original and indigenous stewards of this land to which we all belong, now called San Antonio, Bexar County, and Texas. At our church, we strive to enact a universal love that binds us in mutual care and affection, especially in our work for justice for all and for our planet. Our faith is all-inclusive, and all means all, y'all. If you are new to us or visiting for the first time today, we welcome you to fill out a visitor's card. We'd like to get to know you and to follow up with you. Wherever you are on your life's journey, we hope you will find your place with us.
Hi, y'all. It's so good to see you here. So many families. It's Easter Sunday. I want to start with something experiential today. This is a multi-generational service, and I know that many of you adults tell me that you're tired of hearing so many words from up here, and you want to do something, you want to feel something. Look at the thumbs up. So I want you to find a real comfortable place to just sit where you are. Put your feet on the ground if you want, or cross your legs in your lap, and just sit and maybe close your eyes and breathe with me. Take a few deep breaths. Breathe in, breathe out, and do that 2 more times. Long, deep breath in, long, deep breath out. Once more, in and out. And then let your breath return to its normal rhythm. You may find out that it's a little slower now that we've practiced breathing more deeply, and especially letting that air out. Take a moment to scan your body. That's go inside and feel your body. What do you feel? You feel your seat on the chair, maybe your back against the chair. Scan your body from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head. Notice particularly any areas of tension, and breathe into those. Release the tension with every exhale. And at the same time, allow all your feelings just to be as they are. It's okay to feel what you feel. Ron's going to put a picture up on the screen here. And I'm going to invite you either to focus on it or on this beautiful vase of lilies up here. Whatever you can see. We want to exercise the sense of sight. This is going to be a mindfulness meditation today, which will focus on our sight. So look at a particular flower or this flower. And let your sense of sight assist you in just becoming present and relaxed. Notice the color, the shape, the size. If you find your attention wandering, that's okay. We're just here to experience our senses of sight. Just look and observe the flowers. That's all you need to do. Let's do it together, and I'll let us know when we'll come out. It'll only be about 30 seconds, so don't worry. Feel into your body. Use your eyes and your sense of sight. So today or any day, when you find yourself agitated or worrying or wondering, you can just return to your sense of sight or your sense of sound, all the kinds of things that we are made up of miraculously beautifully. And take a few minutes like this to breathe and relax into your body. It's that simple. To change your mind and relax into the moment. Thank you for your attention. Oh, and I did mention that it's Easter Sunday, and we're gathered here to celebrate. And in spite of our varied and diverse beliefs as Unitarian Universalists or visitors and guests today, Sunday, Easter Sunday, is one of the most well-attended services in our living tradition, even though most of us don't take the resurrection of Jesus literally. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We emphasize the quality of the story, the metaphor, the symbol, and we speak of the ultimate triumph of life over death. So let's begin by reaching out to our neighbors and passing the peace. Say hello to someone you know, and say hello to someone you want to know. That is experiential, and it's so much fun to see everybody and greet everyone in our own way. I invite you to turn into your gray hymnal to number 269, Lo, the Day of Days is Here. And rise in body or spirit And let's let Jaime lead us into this and listen to our choir as they help us sing it. Terrific. Thank you. Please be seated. As the Sevening family comes forward, we invite them to light the chalice and say the words that we want to hear.
Today's chalice lighting words are by Philip Hewitt. From the fragmented world of our everyday lives, we gather together in search of wholeness. By many cares and preoccupations, by diverse and selfish aims, are we separated from one another and divided within ourselves. Yet we know that no branch is utterly severed from the tree of life that sustains us all. We cherish our oneness with those around us and the countless generations that have gone before us, and endeavor to live in such a way that is mindful of generations yet to come.
Thank you, Alex. What an important message. We may believe differently. We may have different feelings. We may be of different ages and races and understandings, but we gather together as one. And we hope and work that we will do this together throughout our lives. Thank you, Sevenings.
Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all are welcome as blessings. May we strive to share grace and forgiveness with ourselves and each other in the hope of becoming whole and reconciled. Each week we affirm this promise to live and behave as a community, and we know this aim takes work, and so we are committed to live and behave as a community in covenant. Let's recite our covenant that articulates our promises and binds us together. Please read together from your order of service as follows. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
It's time for our candles of joy and sorrow. For those of you who were with us last week, you know that we are lowering the risk of fire and burns by using these new arc lighters. And Tim and Beth will show you how to use it. We just ask for your patience as you do something that exercises your manual skills a little bit more than shaking a wavy, drippy candle around on each other. Let's go into our hearts and minds and think of something, whether a joy or a sorrow, and bring it to us today in this process, because ours is a welcoming community where we find and make connection. It's a spiritual community where we make meaning for our lives. It's a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows and concerns are held in compassion. So take a moment to reflect on your personal joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of this community. And we're going to invite you to come down the side aisles to Tim and Beth and to our little votive lights, and light one. Everyone gets to light a candle today. And then return to your place up the center aisle. Keep in mind the comfort of one another and social distancing as needed. So let's savor this moment of remembrance while Jaime brings us our meditation music. How about that as an exercise in patience? I invite us all now to take a deep, cleansing breath and release it and return to your normal breathing. For the joys shared, we join together in celebration. For the sorrows and concerns, may we feel empathy and compassion. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those who are grieving. And for all that remains unspoken, may we pray for those w Let us join together as a community of care and compassion to offer a space of deep kindness and just action. Some of the joys and sorrows written in our book: joyful that my son Brennan is feeling better and had a good day yesterday. Thank you for your thoughts and prayers. Joyful for spring, yet concerned with and for all of our allergy sufferers. For the joy of our Easter egg hunt immediately following our service in the playground, let's rejoice with our children and families. And yet, we have continuing concerns and sorrows for all of the blanket of challenges facing our planet. And we are mindful and filled with love and care, and may our efforts be for justice and peace. Blessed be. This morning, I'm going to tell you a story about springtime, and I'm going to need your help. The cast of characters that will be put up on our screen will involve our 4 sections of our sanctuary helping with words. This section over here is going, every time I say the word winter, you're going to say burr, winter. And every time I say the word melt or melting or melts, you're going to say sloop, slop. Sloop, slop. Is that easy to say? This section right here, when I say pussy willows, you're going to say meow. And when I say peepers, you're going to say peep, peep, peep. Very good. This section here, when I say wind, you're going to say whoosh. And when I say robin, you're going to say tweet, tweet. And finally, over here, when I say spring, you're going to say ah. Very good. And when I say crocus, which is a kind of flower, crocus, you're going to say, hi there. Very good. One day, Sarah was walking down the street. She said, my, but it seems like spring is taking a long time coming in this year. She said, winter has been so long and cold this year, I don't believe spring will ever come. But as Sarah was walking, she noticed that the winter snow had melted. And there underneath the melting snow were little crocus heads, just about to burst into bloom. Crocus, said Sarah joyfully. I just love crocus flowers. Sounds like you love them too. They are certainly a sign that winter is leaving. Why, those crocus, they were underneath the snow until it melted. She continued to walk down the street, and the blur of a brown and red robin flew by. A robin, shouted Sarah. I just love seeing the first robin of spring. Winter is really leaving. First, the snow melts, and then the crocus comes up. And now the robins have returned. I wonder what sign of spring I'll see next. As Sarah turned the corner, a branch from a bush caught on her sleeve. Goodness, what is this? Pussy willows. And so near to my house, too. Oh, they're so soft and fuzzy. It's hard to imagine that just in a few weeks, these fuzzy little things will be long, shiny green leaves. Sarah carefully plucked a pussy willow and put it into her pocket, being careful that the little fuzzy pussy willow flowers didn't get knocked off. Oh my, I'm so happy I've seen all these wonderful signs of spring. First, the melting snow, and then the crocus, and then the robin, and now the lovely pussy willows. If I only heard the baby bird peepers, then I'd know for sure that spring is truly here and that winter is gone. Sarah walked on thinking about all the wonders of spring, the happy chirping of the birds building new nests, the trickle of water in the brooks, the bright warm sun. I even like the winds pushing in the warmth. I like to think of it as pushing in the spring. And she came to the bottom of the hill and she looked over the field and she saw a huge pond of melted water. A pair of robins flew overhead, and she heard the winds blowing. And she stood there and watched the sun setting, thinking about spring. There in the dusky dusk came a sound. A smile spread on her face. Yes, yes, it was true. Peepers. Everybody, peep, 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 peep. And that's our story. Thank you for being the sound helpers. Give yourself a hand. Now, I think we have some preschool children in here who might want to meet Miss Glenna in the foyer and go out and play in the preschool room. We will see you later at that Easter egg hunt. Now, as the ushers prepare this morning's offering, may each of us look not just into our bank accounts, but look into our hearts for how much we have to share. How much generosity, how much trust, how much gratitude, how much hope. So let's take our offering today from that account. Did you know that the maintenance of our church campus requires a never-ending and often litany of unplanned expenses? For example, someone recently broke into our fellowship hall, resulting in repairs and the decision to install an alarm in the building. Now 3 of our 6 buildings are alarmed: the sanctuary, the fellowship hall, and the office. And that increased our monthly fee that we pay the alarm service, so that's another unexpected expense. And recently we noticed, because of this vandalism, that we had some lights that were out at night and some fixtures that were broken and needed repairing, so we had that done a week or so ago. So, I guess the song and the sound for facilities repairs is always, always, always. Always, always, always. I said it was going to be a participatory service. So we invite our ushers to come forward to pass the offering baskets. And for those viewing online, we invite you to make a contribution on our website or on the link on the chat stream. Let's give until it feels good. We are so grateful for these talented musicians. Thank you so much. And we bless these offerings which we have received from your generosity for our church facilities that house our many ministries and activities. May our blessings be multiplied through our sharing of them. Amen. Bless you. We're going to invite our 75th anniversary committee to come forward and to recognize this period of time that has passed, that started oh so long ago.
As Reverend Mark noted, Easter and spring symbolize new beginnings. This Easter, we take down our 75th anniversary banner, not to close the door on the past, but to open the door to our future and start writing the new chapters of our church history. When we put this banner up in January of 2020, we did so with great reverence to over 7 decades of our church history. The 75th Anniversary Committee was formed almost a year before, planning and plotting what we hoped would be meaningful events to the congregation of today. 4 main events were put on the calendar: a homecoming open house, a banquet, a church picnic and music festival, and a symposium. A book was also planned to be published to commemorate our great church milestone. Alas, COVID-19 was not in our plan. We were able to accomplish our homecoming open house and publish the book, but all other events were put on ice. We didn't know that ice would last for 2 years. We did manage a virtual music festival during the pandemic, thanks to our many talented choir members who made that effort happen during the lockdown.
What is left now is to say thank you to everyone who made our efforts meaningful. And while not everyone can be named, know that our thanks go to every member of this congregation who make this the beloved community. Thank you to everyone who supported us financially through our many fundraising efforts and marvelous service auction. Thank you to the 75th Anniversary Committee members who were not all able to join us today. Dorothy Wallace, Terry Palin, Mary Wright, Maria Bush, my husband Jim Noel and me, Art Severance, and Bill Bush, who authored our new church history. You can still get a copy from the church office. Please, a round of applause. Thank you also to the choir and musicians who gave us our one and hopefully only virtual music festival, including Susan Dill, Mary Lou and Don Heimel, Jaime Ramirez, Tavis McGeechan, the Monomials or Slowpoke, aka Troy Peters and Richard Keith, and Dana Clark, who actually wrote a special song for our anniversary. Give it up. Thank you also to David Karras for his beautiful Fiesta-esque 75th anniversary poster. And to all the volunteers who worked tirelessly to put on the service auction and the wonderful homecoming open house. Hooray.
So today, we say farewell to a banner, but we will always remember the people whose shoulders we stand on today, our wonderful church ancestors who built their dreams into this place we call our church home. May we continue to carry the torch they lit on this beacon on the hill into the future. There is so much more to come. Stay tuned.
I guess I'll kind of miss that banner a little bit. Today I'm going to entertain the notion of a somewhat controversial topic in this room, that of salvation. Salvation from a UU view. After all, salvation is the essence of Easter for Christians who hold as sacred this celebration for its message of the resurrection of the sacrificed Jesus who brings salvation to all believers. Clearly, our Christian neighbors, families, and friends consider the belief in the Easter miracle essential for salvation, and we acknowledge that. What, if anything, do you consider essential for your own sense of salvation? In Unitarian Universalism, we consider ourselves to be the meaning makers of our lives. Might it have to do with living a life that makes a difference and multiplies love, joy, and justice in this world? Our UU salvation is the reason I'm here in the pulpit with you today, to proclaim with some enthusiasm the good news. And so what do I, a Unitarian Universalist, mean by the good news of salvation? UUism comes directly from the Jewish and Christian faith traditions. Our Unitarian ancestors, like our Jewish and Muslim faith sisters and brothers, chose to believe in one God. And that's why we're called Unitarian instead of Trinitarian. Our forebears believed in the one God and called God the God of love. The UU view of salvation is for life here and now, not in some future paradise. And our earthly message is indeed centered in love. Now, in the Gospel of John, Jesus says, "I came that they might have life and have it more abundantly." Present-day Unitarian Universalism still reverberates with that idea and many Christian ideas about salvation. And while some of us in this room may believe in a personal deity, and some may not, we agree that our covenant of 7 principles is a life-giving salvific underpinning for these theological notions: the equal belovedness of every person, the importance of caring for our beautiful earth here and now, and the need to live in love and not in fear. You see, our UU history features generations and generations of people who've asked a lot of questions. Many of them are in this room. At first, some of these people seem like they've lost their religion. And perhaps there are those here today and online who have an authentic struggle and put their lives at some personal risk to be Unitarian Universalists or agnostics or atheists. But these people, by a long, lifelong means of struggle, have come up with new ideas to believe. You see, our founders and our members are thinkers and doubters and seekers, all people for whom integrity and authenticity matter greatly. And through processes of direct experience and theological reinterpretation, the use of reason, and radical religion, they found ways to continue their search for truth and meaning. So what is the meaning of Easter to you as a UU? The answer to this question may lie for many of you in history. So let me share a little bit of that right now. You see, the Christian New Testament seeks to define the incarnation, the mystery of God's presence in a human form. All 4 Gospels were originally anonymous. Their authors weren't identified until the 2nd century. And almost for certain, as historians who studied literature tell us, none of these Gospels were written by eyewitnesses. They are all end products of oral and written storytelling, metaphors, stories. Now, here's a curiosity to me in the timing of the New Testament writings about when Jesus became God. For example, Paul was the first to write his letters around the year 50 of the Common Era. He said that Jesus became God's Son by adoption after his resurrection. That is very late in Jesus' earthly life. His declaration was the last in the order of New Testament writings of the timing of the phenomenon after Jesus' death and resurrection. Around 10 years later, in around year 60, Mark's gospel, the first of the 4, moves the time of the adoption by God earlier in Jesus' life to his baptism as a young man by John the Baptist. There was a voice from the sky that said, "This is my Son, in whom I am well pleased," according to Mark. By years 70 and 80, at the time of the writings of the Gospels of Luke and Matthew, Jesus' deification was pushed even earlier in his life to his conception, that many of us know, of course, about the virgin birth. That was only in Matthew, and Luke. Finally, later on in the 2nd century, after these 4 other references, Paul, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, John pushes the beginnings of Jesus' divinity even earlier, to the genesis of time itself. He says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word, the Greek word that John wrote his gospel in, was logos. Logos is the Greek word that means word, a living word, a creative word. So, John is referring to the beginning of the Torah, in which the Hebrew writers said, God said, let there be light. So, according to them, the action of creation was with the creative word. John, the evangelist, says that was Jesus himself. So you can see that these 5 writers increased the chronological order gradually from Paul in year 50 to John in about 110, incarnating God in Jesus at an earlier and earlier and earlier time. But I go back to Mark, probably because it's my namesake, and I think of this guy who was more like a reporter and a repeater of things that he had heard. And he depicts Jesus as this man of deep faith whose life exemplified revolutionary and radical, compassionate messages of forgiveness and the love that we have for one another. So as the Gospels and writings develop historically, we can trace a growing interest in a religion about Jesus as a Messiah, as God himself, come to save the world, rather than primarily about the radical teachings and example of the Nazarene man, Jesus. The labeling of Jesus as God has begun. Now, the last of the writers is John, who declares Jesus as the only way to salvation. John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to God or the Father except by me. The messenger becomes the message. And this is accomplished through a divine rescue mission, Jesus' death on the cross for the sins of humankind. This atonement becomes even more important than the living example of the Jewish rabbi Jesus. And so consequently today, Christianity worships the messenger more than the message. This is a subject for debate and is the reason that I think it's important to describe and talk about these discrepancies in the dating of the New Testament writings and how they refer to Jesus as God. So what can we take home with us today from this story about Easter and Jesus' resurrection? Is it the story of divine atonement, that God in human form dies for humankind on a cruel cross and is resurrected to prove his divinity? Is this the greatest miracle of Christianity? What if I suggested that I think it's meaningful and necessary to practice the teachings and examples of Jesus by resurrecting our own spirit in this life? This is a humanist idea, and I'll be addressing this more on a service on May 1st. Of course, I'd like to require our own responsibility as humans and the exercising of our own gifts and abilities, following the example of Jesus, who did the same, a wisdom teacher, rather than simply believing in him as God incarnate. Richard Rubinstein, author of When Jesus Became God, writes about the possibility of the reduced role of the institutional church because of this kind of belief. If Jesus' life and character were simply a model for our behavior, then the mission of the church and clergy would be to help people transform themselves. Do you think that might be part of the reason that Orthodox Christianity perpetuates the Easter miracle of the death, resurrection, and salvation to give the church and the clergy more power? Just saying. Today I call on us to look at ourselves, to give our gifts and exercise our own power. Let's be enlivened by living and not just existing. You'll have to decide what brings your life more abundant. It may be a flush in your cheeks, a quickened heart as you're asked to stand before the city council or a town hall on some pressing social, environmental, or economic issue. It may be your sense of anticipation as you go to tutor or mentor a child. It may be the self-confidence you have as you walk into a building that you pay for and maintain, maybe our own church. It may simply be the feeling that you get by gazing into the eyes of your loved ones. That's love. That's forgiveness. That's a basic action that resurrects our own life in us. There are many more ways to give our life more resurrection and more hope. May you hear my words today and be reminded of what you already know, that Easter's beauty is in the hope that reveals love. That is a spirit of renewal. And in the beauty of one another, may you experience the presence of those you love and those you have lost. By remembering the best, may you find forgiveness, gratitude, and comfort that can bless you today and throughout the rest of your life. This is the hope of second chances, an emotional and psychological rebirth that we are reminded of and called to this Easter. Thank you for your patience and listening. Now, let's turn to number 270 in our gray hymnals and sing together, O Day of Light and Gladness, rising in body or spirit. Thank you, Jaime.
Within us walk, and while hallowed memories throng, the soul widens, past, present, future be, and rises on our vision that life hath known. Earth feels the season's joy, and from mountain, range, and sea, the tides of life are flowing, fresh, manifold, and free. In valley and upland, by forest pathways deep, all nature lifts in chorus the resurrection hymn. O dawn of life eternal, to thee our hearts appraise. The Easter song of gladness, the Passover of praise. Thine are the many mansions, the dead die not to thee, who fillest from thy fullness of time eternity.
Thank you, and please be seated. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we honor the practice of faith by seeking and building a welcoming and beloved community of personal and public fulfillment. We demonstrate this faith in action through our love of the God of our understanding, which has at its expression our compassionate work for social justice, loving our planet, our neighbors, and even our enemies, loving them as ourselves. As reflected in this springtime Easter season, may we come more alive today as we go from here with Jaime's wonderful postlude. Let's say, blessed be, blessed be.